Importantly, he loves the Lord, and he's taught 40 years at college, but you know what? He loves speaking to homeschoolers. So please give him a big hand. Welcome back. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's certainly good to be here and see all you bright young kids. I used to teach, by the way, second grade for a while, fifth grade for a while, high school, and then I went on and I taught college, so I'm pretty used to working with kids. This presentation is on dogs, and it may surprise you that when God was creating life, he basically was looking at our future. And he, Luke 14, planned ahead. If you're going to build a tower, you plan ahead. So when God was creating the earth and life, he planned ahead. And dogs are mentioned 54 times in the Bible. In fact, more than almost any other animal. Goats are mentioned, sheep are mentioned, but they're figurative. They're not literal in many cases. And so there you can see the wolf shall dwell with a lamb, and a wolf, by the way, is a dog. It's just a wild dog. In fact, some people think wolves make better dogs than dogs. So we have a lot of fear of wolves. Well, yeah, wild, of course. Wild is a problem. I got a little cough here. Somebody bring me some water, please. Is that possible? Thank you. I've been fighting a cold, but hey. Okay, there you can see a dog. Study of dogs' design and temperament and variety of personality shows they were made specifically for us. So when God was designing the earth, okay, thank you much. He basically said, we want a companion for man and woman. And dogs were designed specifically to be companions for us. So when you look at a dog, think of the fact that this creature was made for you. And you can, in many ways, see God in a dog. Okay? And when I show pictures of dogs, invariably people go, oh, and ooh, and other things. They moan because they can see how indeed dogs are really gorgeous animals. And there you go. That happens to be my dog. And he's Rudy is his name. And we got him for several reasons. One reason is that you need exercise. And I tend to stay home and work on my computer. I'm a writer. I write 3 articles a week. So I have to spend a lot of time on my computer. And when it comes to walking, I don't feel like it. And so we have a dog. And my wife says, you take that dog on a walk 4 times a day. And if you don't, he poops in the house, you clean it up. And I'm not into cleaning up poop, so I take him for a walk 4 times a day. And besides that, he comes in and, looks so sad. He looks at me. He wants to walk. Even though dogs can't talk, they are pretty good at communicating. In fact, they're very good at communicating. So there he is. That's Rudy. That's my little guy. In Genesis 2:18, the Lord God said, it is not good that man should be alone. I will make a helpmeet for him. And God made a companion for man, and that companion was woman. There we go. That is a helper suitable for man is woman. And a brief comment on that. Most men, if we're honest, don't do well on our own. In fact, men don't live long when they're single. If a man marries and does nothing different, he lives on the average of 5 years longer. Now, I know you women say, yeah, that's true. Last time I gave this presentation, woman said, I have 3 kids. 2 I got by the birth process. The other one I married. Okay? And us guys, if we're humble, some of us aren't very humble, but if we're humble, we admit that in our lives, a woman is very, very important. Well, God saw that, and God realized that, yeah, we got a companion for man. What about a companion for man and woman? And that companion, of course, was a dog. And this magazine, Discover, talked about the power of cute. We are designed, when we look at the creation, we need to realize that God created us and life. And when he created us, we can see so much of what he created was for us. God created us to see dogs and cats as cute. He made us so that we loved the face. And actually, they've studied the faces of dogs and cats, and we know the traits that makes them cute. Big eyes are one reason. Certain configuration is another reason. And so, as a matter of fact, in some countries, I think America as well, if you abuse a dog, you can get a prison term. And they wonder, what's wrong with you? Why do you treat this dog poorly? And every now and then people do, and they sometimes get prison terms because the normal person would treat a dog well. But if they don't, what's wrong with you? What's going on here? And there you can see is another dog. And I mean, isn't that guy look cute? What do you feel like doing when you see that? Anybody? Go ahead. Go ahead. I don't know your name, but doing what? Hiking it. Hugging it. Yeah. You feel like you want to hug it. You want to go over there and you want to hug that little guy. And that's what we realize that we need to do. This is a story of a man and wife. The wife wanted protection. So she got right there, you can see a pit bull. She got a pit bull because she wanted protection. Pit bulls are really loving dogs, but I'll tell you, they're very protective. And if you try to fool around with somebody, that pit bull is going to attack the person who's bothering you. And so she got a pit bull, and the husband said, look, I don't want the pit bull in the house. He's going to be in the garage. No pit bull in the house. He wasn't too enthusiastic because they're not the cutest of dogs. So nonetheless, she got the dog. Dog lived in the barn. And then one day he was going somewhere and someone let the dog out and the dog ran up to him and he thought, oh my God, I'm going to end up with losing part of my hand because this dog is mean. And the dog came up to him and licked his hand. And he thought, wait a minute, I've really been unkind to this dog. I ought to be, that dog likes me. And so dog likes you, you tend to like the dog. And that's exactly what happened. So he changed. Okay. Dogs are genetically programmed to have unconditional love for their human master and fiercely protect their master. In fact, when dogs bite other people, they are protecting their master. And dogs can be trained to do all kinds of things, which we'll talk about in a minute. There are about 5,325 breeds of dogs. And evolutionists say, well, that proves evolution. No, it doesn't, because in the dog, the original dog, Adam and Eve, there was a dog and a male and a female dog. And in that set, that pair, God created enough variety so that we can get 5,000 different breeds. It's a huge amount of variety. How do we know that? Because we did it. We know that the dogs today came from a wolf. So originally we had the wolf and the mate. And from those two dogs, we bred all the dogs that we see today. And the variety among dogs is enormous, as I'll talk about. And there's a big difference between dogs and other animals. Obviously, we see that, but I find it fascinating that dogs see that. When my dog sees another dog, his tail wags and he wants to go and say hi. When he sees a squirrel or a skunk or a raccoon, he growls and he's after him. How does he know the difference? Sometimes it's hard for us to tell the difference at a distance, but they instinctively know another dog, and we have a dog on our street that's about the size of a horse, must weigh 250 pounds. A big, huge dog, friendly dog, but big and huge. And my old dog wants to go up to him and snuggle. How does he know it's a dog and not a horse? We had a county fair recently, and there were cows and horses and so on, and my dog growled. He knows the difference between these different animals. It's programmed. And so when a dog sees a skunk, the dog knows that, well, not a friend, not somebody I want to snuggle with. Another dog, he snuggles very easily. Smell. One of the amazing things about dogs is they have an incredibly good smell. They have a smell that is so good, we can't even imagine how they could be as accurate as they are. Okay? Now, why don't human people, evolutionists say, well, why don't we have eyes like an eagle or smell like a dog? We would end up with sensory overload. We need to have senses that pick up information we need, like talking to other people. So our smell, sight, hearing is designed to pick up information in our world. And if we had smell like a dog, we would have sensory overload. We'd be swamped with information, and that's not good. Okay? They can smell up to 40 feet below the ground. In the fairground where I live next to, what they do is they'll dig a hole 40 feet down, bury something, and then the dogs come on the fairgrounds, and the dogs then are told, go find this. And they'll run around and they'll find right where the whatever was buried 40 feet down, and they'll start digging. How can they smell something that's 40 feet down? I can't even imagine that. And they do it. And I know they do it because we saw them do it next door when they had the fairground. It's what yeah. Well, usually if they're in the spot, then we say, okay, you found it. Yeah, it is a long ways to dig. So it would take a dog half a day to dig a hole that deep. But anyways, humans can smell a spoonful of sugar in a cup of tea. That's it. Dogs can smell a spoonful of sugar dissolved in 2 Olympic-sized swimming pools. 2 Olympic-sized swimming pools. You put a teaspoon of sugar, you mix it up. I don't know how you mix it up, but you mix it up, and the dog can smell it. That is really, really good smell. And so they've been trained, ironically, to detect skin, breast, bladder, and other cancers. And more we're using dogs to smell cancer or these other issues. Why? Well, look at their nose. It's huge. Look at this, the olfactory part of their nose. It's huge. So yours is probably, I don't know, a couple of millimeters. Theirs is 4 or 5 centimeters. And so comparatively, it's huge. Okay, other ways that dogs serve besides smelling is hunting, herding sheep, pulling sleds, wagons, and other loads, protection, rodent control, assisting police and the military. In fact, most police departments have now a canine unit. Okay? The military uses thousands of dogs for a number of purposes. So dogs are very, very, very useful. And they're leading the blind. That's probably one well-known example of where dogs are used. And I've always been amazed at how they know where to stop, where to go, and how to protect their master. They are trained well. And I have a friend who lost his sight. He did something stupid when he was in 6th grade. He bought some chemicals online. He was going to make a bomb, and he was mixing it up in his bedroom, of all places. It blew up, and it blinded him. I guess it worked better than he thought, or didn't mix it up quite right. And so he's blinded as a young man. And he had a dog which helped him get around many, many places. He used to go downtown Detroit to work in the darkroom at Hutzel Hospital. And I wouldn't feel comfortable getting on a bus and going downtown. He did. got on the bus. It was about 12 miles downtown. He got on the bus with a dog, went downtown, got off the bus, went to work. The dog knew exactly where to go, how to go, stopped for traffic, would look both ways like we sometimes don't do, and stopped for traffic and carried him to his job at the hospital in the darkroom, which of course he could do. Therapy dogs, more and more you see therapy dogs. In the airport especially, you see therapy dogs. And in fact, the last ICC, there was a man there with a therapy dog. He looked all right to me. Didn't seem to need any therapy. Looked fine to me. He had that dog, and the dog followed him wherever he went. And it works. One person in the airport, when he was waiting for the plane, next to me, he had a therapy dog, and you start talking. And so I just, out of curiosity, why do you have a therapy dog? I mean, you look all right to me. And he said, well, the reason I have a therapy dog is because I was in war, in a battle, and several friends next to me got killed. I had a hard time dealing with that. These were guys I knew, my buddies. Right next to me, they're dead. They're gone in the war. And I never really adjusted well. They said, how about a therapy dog? Got a therapy dog, and he says, I'm doing much better. That dog really helps him deal with his loss. If nothing else, it takes your attention away. And for many people to know that this little guy loves you unconditionally, I've had women tell me. One woman, she said she had 3 husbands. Okay. And she said, you know, none of them have been as faithful as my dog. He's always there. He always loves me. I come home from work. He's right by the door, jumps on me, hugs me. My husband never did that. You know, he never came to where I was when I opened the door. The dog did, though. I guess you need to find a husband that has some traits along that area. Only means of transportation in many places. Now we have snowmobiles, of course, but for many decades, we didn't. So the only means of transportation was the dog sleds. And as I mentioned, all dogs come from the wolf kind. Evolutionists, again, say, well, this is evolution. The problem is that there are only 11 fixed genes which produce all of this variety. So from 11 genes, that's all we need to produce all of the variety. And the variety is amazing. And there you go. That's the wolf. Okay. They're a dog. And again, some people prefer wolves. When, of course, you raise them from when they're really young, before they can see, typically. And there is the 2 different skulls, both from dogs. If you're an anthropologist and you discover those skulls, you'd say, well, obviously they're from different animals. They're not the same animal. Well, guess what? They are both from dogs, period. They're both from dogs. And there you can see the wolf in the corner, the husky, the Shih Tzu. See if this, I guess this will work. Yeah, there we go. Husky, Shih Tzu, Pekingese, Pug, and English Bulldog. Look at the difference between those. They're all dogs. And this is a concern I have with trying to prove evolution by looking at skulls. You see some right up here. They try to prove evolution by these skulls, and yet so many, they may be different, but still, well, in this case, they're all dogs. And there you can see 510 different dogs. These are some of the main breeds that are used today, except they're always coming up with new breeds. The dog we have is a new mixture. I guess nobody's ever made that before. They had to do it by artificial insemination. And as a result, this breed, there's only one type of dog like this in the world. And I guess it's becoming more popular since we got ours. And there you can see from 5 pounds to 200 pounds. They're both dogs. And I used to say they couldn't breed. How could those size difference breed? I had a student in my class when I was teaching at the college who bred dogs. That was his job. And he raised his hand and said, Dr. Bergman, they can breed because in my business, they did, not purposely, but mistakenly, they bred. And we ended up with pups that, I don't know, they were somehow in between. Okay. And I thought, you're kidding. I didn't ask him which was the mother. Probably the bigger dog was the mother, but I didn't ask him. But he said, now this is not deliberate, but it happens. And they interbred. And so I was humbled. By the way, in teaching, you learn a lot. You learn a lot from students. And as you teach more and more, you become, I hope, smarter. And so from then on, after this experience, I mentioned that, yes, these two dogs can interbreed. Although I wouldn't recommend it, but that's another story. Okay, dogs were designed to communicate, but now with human language. And that's good in many ways because dogs will never talk back to you. Sometimes what the Bible talks about warns about the tongue, right? And so many of the problems people have are a result of their tongue. They need to bridle their tongue and watch what they say. I bet a lot of you kids, the main reason you got in trouble with your parents was because of what you said. I see several kids in the front row, you're saying, yep. And so dogs don't have to worry about that because they can't talk. I think dogs were designed specifically not to talk, but they had to communicate. And one way they communicate was by a number of noises they make. You can tell when they're crying. You can tell when they're mad. Especially if your own dog, you get to learn those signals. And one way is they communicate. A major way they communicate with you is licking. Why? Well, it's kind of hard for a dog to kiss you. Their face isn't designed quite what you need to kiss. And so they lick is one way they like you. And so when a dog licks you, you know they're saying, I like you. That's how they communicate. And it's pretty effective. We know when they lick, especially our face, we know they like us. Now, some people don't like that, of course, but hey, if you have a dog, get used to it. Okay, growling indicates the dog is afraid, angry, aggressive, or possessive, or in pain. So they do communicate. And after a while, you get to know your dog. Then you can determine whether or not the dog is being aggressive or angry or whatever. So your dog has a communication that's unique. Singing, there are some dogs that sing. Actually, they sound pretty good. I'm not sure if they made any records that sold well, but they do sound pretty good. And there's the tail. If you're good about the tail language, you can figure out what they're saying. There are a lot of charts that'll help you. Generally, when the tail wags, they're excited. So when the tail wags, you know that they're happy, they're excited, they're glad to see you. So that's a very important way. In fact, when we come in the house or when we talk about walking, boy, that tail right away goes back and forth. Okay, what about the health benefits? People who own dogs live longer. Why? A number of reasons. One is they lower the blood pressure. Just by being there, by petting the dog, it tends to lower the blood pressure. How do we know this? We take your blood pressure, you sit down, you bring a dog in, you pet the dog, you take your blood pressure, it's lower. Very simple. Not hard to figure that out. Also, they force you to walk them, as my dog does. So you have to walk more. And one of the most important things in good health is exercise, walking. And so people who have dogs are more apt to exercise, more apt to walk, and thus they are in better health. And petting dogs reduces cardiovascular, behavioral, and psychological indicators of anxiety. Patients suffering from cancer and coronary artery disease, especially, we found, can benefit from presence of a dog. Luke 16:21, and desiring to be fed with the crumbs which fell from the rich man's table, the dogs came and licked his sores. That is interesting because in the olden days, we didn't have Lysol or Vaseline or the topical antibiotics. The only way that you could deal in the olden days is lick the sore yourself, or ironically, dogs' saliva is very antiseptic. Okay? And when you have a sore, historically, they have the dogs in the square in the city, and when you had a cut, you go into the city, the dog licks the wound, and that is one way of reducing bacterial infection and facilitating its healing. And so licking the wounds is an important way of helping your body heal. Your body heal. And they have a thick coat of fur, obviously. They wear a fur coat year-round. So how do they stay cool? Well, they can't sweat because, well, they've got that fur. So what they have is a way of cooling their body, and they do have sweat glands on the paws, their paws. And so that's how they track other dogs. Because as they run, they leave a trail of sweat wherever they go. So that's how one dog tracks another dog. They also, the main way is the tongue. So when they have their mouth open and they're panting, they're cooling their body. It's the only way they have. They have no other way of cooling their body. And so when you know they're panting, they're probably too warm, and you need to take them outside and run around or deal with the heat problem. But usually they are pretty effective in cooling their body by panting. Usually they're very, very effective. Okay, moving on. And there you can see two dogs are panting. And also when they're happy, they tend to pant well because they're energized. When they energize, they become warm and they pant to cool their body. So it stays cool. Most popular animal in the world, in the United States, there's 77 million dogs. 1.6 per household. 1.6 per household. So it tells you how popular they are. In the world, they estimate close to 1 billion. And there are on YouTube stories of people who find dogs abandoned, and they try to get next to them, and the dogs are shy typically, but they work their way, they give them treats and so on. And then they bring the dog in their home to a vet, check the dog out, and adopt the dog. And I'm amazed at how many of these stories, they don't tell you where it's from, but how many of these stories we're talking about are Chinese men, sometimes women, who find an abandoned dog and bring it in. And somehow I had the idea Chinese didn't like dogs because they sometimes consume them for meals. And so I had that impression. But obviously there's a lot of these films where clearly they love, in China, dogs just like we love dogs. So it's universal. It's universal. And there you can see, right? You have to love them. You look at them and you say, they are so pretty. And there we go. He just wants to be hugged. And there's two puppies. And there is that a Cocker Spaniel? I'm not sure. And there's a Dachshund. We had a Dachshund for 15 years. And so we go from a Dachshund to the dog we have now. There you go, big eyes. Historically, we find it interesting that on Egyptian frescoes, the walls, common sight is dogs. So not only us are attached to dogs, but also in other parts of the world and other times. In Egypt, there are lots of examples of dogs, and that you can even tell what breed it is. Looks like a dachshund. And there you see, there's another example of a dog. And the origin and evolution of the dog, guess what? No evidence. They try, though. Evolutionists believe in evolution. So that little guy here, that is supposed to be the evolutionary ancestor of the dog. I don't think so. I think they're desperate for some evolutionary ancestor. They're trying to find something, and that's the best they came up with. And to me, that's pretty pathetic. But that's one theory of the evolution of dogs. That's where they evolved from. But of course, the problem is where this guy evolved from. And there you can see is another possibility of the evolution of dogs. And there you go, Hesperocyon. That's supposed to be the evolution dog. The problem is that's a dog, right? I mean, you're saying dogs evolved from dogs. Yeah, what else is new? And so indeed, the supposed ancestor of all dogs is a dog. So you haven't proved anything. You need to prove where dogs came from. And so that other picture is at least more along the line of what they're trying to propose. And so the evolutionists claim that the first dog evolved 45 million years ago. And that means in 45 million years, there has been no evolution. Now, I don't accept those 45 million year dates, but let's assume it was true. That means you mean in 45 million years, there's no evolution at all? Evolution's occurring, it must be some evolution, but there isn't. So dog is a unique one-of-a-kind animal that, in addition to the horse, played a very special role in human history. I'm going to work on a PowerPoint on horses and cats. So horses, dogs, and cats are the three animals that have been among the most important in human history. And to close it, I'll just give you a picture of my little guy again. And I miss him already, but I'll be able to see him Wednesday night. And as soon as I come home from my trip, I'll open the door, and right there will be this little guy. He'll be sleeping, but as soon as he hears the garage door open, he'll jump out of bed. He sleeps with us. If you put him on the floor, he cries. So right away, he'll jump off the bed. He'll run over there, and I'll open the door from the garage to the house. As soon as I open that door, he will be right there, ready to jump on me, and his tail will be going like crazy, and he will be licking like crazy. He's glad to see me. And so this is one reason we love dogs, is because they really are unconditional lovers. They found in the prison, inmates, they do so much better if they have a dog. And likewise, in your life, most of you, I assume, have a dog, a pet. Now, if you don't, what happens is, Mom, I want a dog. Yeah, you can have a dog if you take care of it. Oh, I'll take care of it, I promise. And you get the dog, and guess who takes care of it? Mom. And so you need to, if you get a dog, you need to take care of it. Otherwise, Mom is going to say, look, I've got your father to take care of. I've got your grandfather living with us to take care of. I've got 3 kids to take care of. I've got me to take care of. You need to take care of the dog. And so as long as you take care of the dog, and it's a good responsibility, it's a way of learning a lot by caring for a dog. And it's a good part of your growing up is to have that responsibility and take care of the dog. So any questions or comments or feedback? Or okay, I got some clapping here. That's good. See? Okay. Any questions at all? Comments? Oh, one thing, when I gave this last time, I had someone say, yeah, that's all well and good, but there's this dog in Tennessee that killed 3 people. Angry dog. Yeah, there are some, if they're mistreated, they sometimes respond that way, but it's rare. When you realize there's, 9 billion dogs in the world, it's rare for a dog to be mean. And often they're protecting somebody. They're not behaving properly. And sometimes they end up with rabies, and then they end up, of course, doing things they shouldn't do. And that's true. Occasionally, dogs do misbehave, partially because they're protecting their master. But on the other hand, that's rare. And therefore, It's something you need to be concerned about. Our neighbors have pit bulls, and pit bulls have the worst reputation for being mean dogs. And yet the neighbor's dog, and they found these on the street, by the way. They're driving down the street and there's a dog. And so they picked up the dog, put it in their car, brought it home. Now they've got 2 dogs. And that dog is the sweetest dog, barks a lot, but that dog is the sweetest dog you will ever imagine. So yeah, there are some mean dogs. So you have to be aware of the fact that they're not all wonderful, loving companions. There's a few out there like people. There's a few people out there that should be in prison. That's why we have prisons. So a few people misbehave, few dogs likewise misbehave. Any comments or questions or anyone? This one, go ahead. Not that I'm aware of. They keep records of how many dogs viciously attack people, and the number 1 is the pit bull, and the number 2 is, I forget, the Rottweiler. So these are number 1 and 2. Part of the issue is that there's some dogs that turn on their masters occasionally, rarely, but on the other hand, those dogs are rare, period. Although it's not true of pit bulls. A lot of people own pit bulls. That's not true at all. When I fly out to Anaheim, California to do some of the churches out there, the person I stay with has got a pit bull. And he's just likewise the sweetest dog, and just, he performs tricks. He's really good with tricks, this little dog. And you tell him to jump, and he put a barrier this high, and he just jumps right over it. He's in the house, and Anaheim is, they're literally 10 inches away from the house next door. So he's got to behave. Other questions, comments? Go ahead. Well, it's just a bigger breed. It's just, some dogs are just, collies can be pretty good size. Mastiff, my daughter is a Mastiff, and that's about the size of a horse and about the weight of a small horse. They're just big dogs. And our dog, when we got him, he was like 3 pounds, and now he's about 8, and that's as large as he'll get. So, question? Go ahead. It's loud, nice and loud. Go ahead. There's more attachment to dogs than cats, a lot more. And cats are, if you're going to be gone a lot, cats are good. Dogs, you don't go for a couple of days and leave a dog. Dog has to have people there. You can go out and we have about 3-hour limit. When we go out, we have to be back in 3 hours, because otherwise our dog goes crazy. So dogs, they need people. They need to be around people. Cats can do fine for a month and no problem. So they have different personalities. And some people like cats for various reasons. Some people like dogs. And so their preferences are different. Dogs are by far the most preferred animal, but cats are just easier to take care of. Put a litter box, put food for a week, gone for a week, you come back, they're fine. No problem. Can't do that with dogs. You've got to be able to. For our dog, when we're gone, we have a sitter for him. So we have a dog sitter. And that's common because they were created to be around people. They need to be around people, period. And they don't do well if they're not around people. Where cats just have a litter box and a bed, they do fine. No problem. Although cats can be pretty affectionate as well. Depends on the cat and the breed. So, other questions, comments? Anybody else? Hope you enjoyed this. Hope you found this useful. I have another PowerPoint. I don't know how much time we have, but where's the time? Okay, so you introduce Dr. Dye, and he's gonna talk about these skulls, and they're really interesting. So, okay, Dr. Willie Dye. He's an archaeologist. He spent years traveling out the world. He's probably been in more countries than I've ever heard of. He's been in Israel a lot. He's been what? You name all the places he's been. So
Can you hear me? Yeah, it is working. Okay. Are there any dog lovers? Oh, I had a question for you. Because I was gone too long, is that why my dog, when I had a dog, he tore up all my shoes? He tore up just those house shoes. He just got into them and just.
the reason they do that is because they like to be around people. If I can't be around you, at least I can be around your smell. And so therefore they like to chew on shoes because shoes typically, to our standpoint, smell. To the dog standpoint, oh, they like butt. So if I can't be around you, at least I can be around your smell. And they chew them, of course, because they do like to chew. And so
Okay.
puppies especially, they love to chew, and so you gotta watch them. They'll chew, they'll ruin a lot of stuff. You gotta keep an eye on them.
Okay, let's give Dr. I was going to say Dr. Dye. Let's give Dr. Bergman a big hand. Now, I'm going to do something different while they're getting set up. Let's all stand up. And I would say let's just walk around the room, but we're not going to do all that. Stretch. Hands up. Hands up. Okay, tiptoes. Now I can't do that. Okay, hands down. You can have your seat.
I get you a stool.
Are there any dog lovers in here? Okay. All the dog lovers are on this side. I don't see any hands. Any dog lovers on this side?
No sound.
Oh, okay. But if there was no allergy, would you have a dog? Questionable. Okay. Let's see. What kind of dog would you have, or do you have? Okay, I'm going to start in the back. I'm going to start in the back. Yes. I can't, and I'm going to tell you all right now, I can't hear out of this here at all. So, what? Oh, okay. Anybody got a pit bull? I had a pit bull once upon a time. Okay, what kind of dog you have? You have a pit bull? And he's playful. The reputation that pit bulls are mean, they can be mean, but other dogs can be mean also. You have to, it depends on how you take care of your dog. Because I always told my dog, his name was Jack, if somebody broke into my house and just gave him something to eat, his tail would be wagging. I said, you ain't no good. You ain't. Yes, what kind of dog do you have? Yes. Two. Ooh.
Okay.
And
And
are
we're
the
gonna
German
do,
Shepherds still puppies, or are they big and grown?
Yeah. Thank you, Bob. Okay.
Yes.
I'll start right there. You know, with the
A Siberian
I'm gonna
Husky.
start with the
Okay,
Biloxi River,
good.
and I'm gonna go right through.
A what? You have a Rottweiler?
Yeah, just
Is
click
your
on
Rottweiler mean?
Yeah.
No. And most of the time when you see a dog,
Yeah, start
and their
out with the
tail,
Biloxi River.
and I remember going over somebody's house, and
I thought we
the dog's tail just
original
a
one we
wagging.
had.
I said, "You're no good. You're no good." Yes. What kind of dog do you have?
Click on this and see what it comes.
Ooh, okay. Dogs require what? They do require love. but they require attention too. And you who have dogs know that. What kind of dog you have?
Okay. We'll pull up the Biloxi River.
A black what? A black Labrador. Oh,
And then
okay.
we'll come back
Well,
to,
let's see.
We'll come back to
Isn't it strange?
Fort Wayne.
Pastor Boyce, who's my brother-in-law,
Well, I'll
takes
let you
two
know
of
when-
us
when
to
it's-
do
when
what
it's
he
due.
does naturally. But I'm glad. Keep him in your prayers. Talk to him earlier. Talk to his son and his
Yeah, because I'm
wife.
gonna need them. Yeah, okay.
God is able.
Uh,
And
yeah,
just
find a
ask that
movie.
you would
We'll
keep
play the movie first.
Pastor Boyd
Then
in
we
your
switch
prayers.
over to
Now,
Fort Wayne.
ready?
Yeah.
Okay. This gentleman needs no introduction. He's been coming to the expo a number of times, a number of years, and we're so glad to have all the way from Los Angeles, California. Yay! Dr. Willie Dye.
All right then. Thank you. All right. Okay, welcome. We're going to have a really exciting time today. I'll explain the skulls, and then in the end, I'd like for the children to come up and you can take photos and handle them, and we'll take pictures and then, your name will be in lights. Okay. What I'd like to do first, I'm going to read some scriptures, and then I'm going to share with you just a little insight for all of you. The reason why I like to do this is because when I was a child, I was from a small town in Texas. Population was 13,000. And so the only thing that basically we had was like sports, like football, baseball, basketball. And then, but the summer was kind of, we didn't have too much to do except for we have to drive to another city in order to use a swimming pool. But our teachers would come by, and what would happen is that they would take the school buses, actually steal the school bus, and come through the neighborhood, pick up all the kids, take them fishing, around. But nobody could. The law didn't do anything with them and everything because that's what we could do. So I was very impressed with that, and so I wanted to. When I grew up, I wanted to take kids on field trips. I wanted to do it like my teachers would do, for me, give back. And that's what I've been doing. The Lord has blessed me to travel to over 60 countries and taking students on field trips. I've taken to Israel, Egypt, all over. And I enjoy doing it. So what I'm going to do as far as the city here is concerned, I'm going to come back because you guys have a lot of underground caves. I want to come and take some of the guys on the field trip, and talk about geophysics and things of that nature. And then I would like to have you to come to Glen Rose, where I work in excavating dinosaurs. We have excavated over 600 dinosaur tracks and over 90 human footprints in the same limestone. So we have hundreds of people come from all over the world, come to our site. And so I love the little kids to come, like I said, they got good energy, and then we take advantage of that, so we sit back and watch them dig. But I want to show you, I want to look at a couple of scriptures, and then I'm going to share with you and give you an opportunity to ask questions, give you an opportunity to come examine the skulls I have, and the insight that you're going to see on the screen. And then what we'll do is share with you some insight, basically, from a biblical standpoint that you can use in your life. So 1 Chronicles chapter 16, just give you a little insight on what I do. It said, then on that day, verse 7 through 12, Then on that day, David delivered first the psalm to thank the Lord unto the hand of Asaph his brethren. He said, give thanks unto the Lord, call upon his name, make known his deeds among the people. So that's one of the aspects I want to do. I've been involved with so many great discoveries. They have me on the History Channel. If you watch the History Channel, I was on the team that discovered the first dinosaur track with the human footprint inside. Working in Israel, King David's palace, the Pool of Siloam, Joshua's altar, just covered from northern Israel all the way to Egypt. Also in Egypt, I've been inside the pyramids. It just really, the Lord has opened up tremendous doors for me. So all the things that I've experienced, I like to share. And then it says, sing unto him, sing songs unto him, talk ye of all his wonderful works. His wonderful works, and God has done some really amazing works, in our lives and in the world. And then verse 10, it says, glory ye in his holy name. Let the heart of them rejoice that seek the Lord. It says, seek the Lord and his strength, seek his face continually. And verse 12, it said, remember his marvelous works. And then the things I'm going to share with you tonight, this afternoon, or this morning, you're going to remember. He said, remember his marvelous works that he has done, his wonders, and the judgment of his mouth. So that's basically what I like to do as far as setting the framework of the foundation of what I do. And then as far as the children are concerned, I like to share this because two things happened in my life that were very disturbing. And so I teach in the prisons. That was our original call. I've been teaching in major prisons like San Quentin, Pelican Bay, Angola, many prisons for 19 years. I'm still doing it also. And recently I was in Panama teaching in a juvenile camp. So I was in San Quentin, basically getting ready to teach. And so I looked to my right, and there was a young man sitting there. And as I began to teach, he interrupted me and said, I remember you. I said, you do? He said, you came to a juvenile camp and you taught. And see, he had worked his way all the way up to the major prison. And I was really saddened about that. Then I went up to another prison up in Northern California, Donovan. It's a really famous prison. And I was teaching, and then I saw this young man, they had the audience there. And then there was a father and a son in the major prison in the same jail, same prison, in the same room. The father and the son. So I said, well, teaching, I want to share this information because I don't like to see things like that. And also, when you have in your school, you might have like a time of the year where you have different authorities or different professional people to come and share with your students, right? So when I was in high school, we had a General Assembly on Friday. So when everybody was seated, and it had these two gentlemen come in, both of them had on white uniforms, white jumpsuits. And so we didn't know what they were for. They had people for oil companies and things of that nature. So these two guys stood up and said, well, we're here because we know that some of you are going to end up in prison. So we are trustees from the local prison. And so we want to share with you things that you need to do in life so you won't end up like us. So we have life sentences in prison, but we've been with the prison, and they let us come out and teach people and share with people not to get entangled with different crime, things of that nature. So I have this thing it's called the law of the inner circle. So every leader, ought to build on the inner circle that will add value to their life or organization. So you as individual, you want to conduct yourself in this manner. You always want to be around creative people, people that are innovative, people that will enhance your life and not deter you from doing the things of God. Then you want loyal people, people that have a kind of like a covenant relationship that you can trust and rely on. And then you want people to share your vision. That's the people in your life to share your vision. When you have a vision or a goal in life, you want people to be in your life to do that. And then you want intelligent people, people that obey laws. And then people that will complement your gifts. So God has given all of us talents and abilities. So we want to take those talents and abilities and cultivate it and use it in the kingdom of God. Then you want people with influence. I'm a counselor also. So the average person influences approximately 20 to 22 people in their lives. They may not ever say anything to you or talk to you, but they watch what you do, they watch what you say. But as long as you're doing good, they won't say anything. But as soon as you mess up, they'll confront you. See, I thought you was a Christian. Things of that nature. And then you want people of faith, and then you want people of integrity to be in your environment. Also, as young men and young women, you want to be well read. So you do a lot of reading, studying, getting those truths on the inside. You want to be well spoken, well traveled. Traveling is one of the best educations that you can get because you don't have any preconceived ideas about different cultures. So people rely a lot on different cultures. But when you travel there, mingle with them, you'll find out that God has some beautiful people. So in your life, you're going to encounter the good, the bad, the ugly, the indifference, and the criminally insane on a regular basis. Okay? Then you want to be well dressed. And lastly, you want to be well balanced. So the more you get into the Word of God, the more words you have on the inside of you, you're going to be well balanced. So I'll remember that the stages of life, first is silence, you listen, and then there's a difference between listening and hearing. You're learning, and then you practice what you learn, and then lastly, you're going to teach. So you live Christ, love people, teach people. Okay, I'll share that with you. So now, let's look at something here for a moment. Here, one of my jobs that I do is I'm a professor and I'm also a vice president of a college, a Bible Believers Christian College and Seminary. And so I travel a lot, I'm on the road a lot, and sharing with people, and because I feel comfortable in the job that God has given me to share with people. So here, we have this particular site in Glen Rose, Texas. Glen Rose, Texas is about 70 miles south of Fort Worth. And I live in Los Angeles, but this is our site. Well, a section of it, because the rest of it belongs to the state of California, the state of Texas. So we have a little site that we do, and then we have excavated in that site over 600 dinosaur tracks. And so what you see here, the white section, this is what we refer to as Cretaceous limestone. Limestone basically comes from calcium carbonate from the ocean, from the Noetic flood that's laid down every 12 hours during the Noetic flood. So in the month of July, we open up to the public that you can bring your children, all your kids can come. I invite all of you to come and excavate with us, because in the month of July, the first week of July, every year we open up to the public because the river is down. And basically we can come in and we can excavate and find, tracks, dinosaur tracks. We uncovered 11 different species of dinosaurs there. We found fossilized human finger. We found pterodactyl tracks, brachiosaurus tracks of the sauropod, and 11 different Acrocanthosaurus. So what we have here is to show you the particular area in our work in this limestone of the dinosaur tracks that are located there. And these are theropods, three-toed dinosaur tracks. And most of them basically is like 30 inches or 36 inches. And then some we found that's 38 inches. And so what we do there, when we invite the public, we come and then we share with you how to excavate. You don't have to bring any tools. We have all the tools. And then during that time period, it's kind of warm. It's like 110 maybe at that particular time. But you only work a half a day from 8 to 12. And then in the afternoon, we have lectures. So you can learn all the insight. We have about just many. We have forensic archaeology. We have geophysicists. We have all kind of scholars that come and share. So here if we look at this area here, this is what we refer to as Cretaceous limestone. And when we excavate a track, what we do is during the course of the day, we're working on the track, and at night we put plastic in there, dirt. We cover it up, for the next day, because we have people that come by that don't like what we're doing, because we show the evidence of creation. So they sabotage our track. So sometimes they will come and try to steal our tracks. So here you see this limestone here, and underneath there's a marl clay. It's laid down every 12 hours and not millions of years. So we take a jack, like you have a jack on a car, on an automobile, and then so we put it underneath, because the limestone basically has fissures in them or cracks in them. When we jack it up, we can take the stone out and put it beside the river. We can't throw it in the river anymore. So when you come, you will have to have a band on your wrist to show that you are part of the team that's there, because we have people that slip in, that come in and be a part, and sometimes they steal information and they falsify things. So we always have people, on the lookout, for that. And so you can see how this work goes. So we work as a team. Hundreds of people come. We have people from all over the world. It's the most famous site in the world now, because we find dinosaurs and man coexisting. And so you've been taught in your textbooks and here, around the world, that dinosaurs died out 65 million years ago, and man didn't come on the scene to 2 million years ago. But Genesis chapter 1 talks about basically on the sixth day, God created man and land animals. Okay, so we can change that. So, okay, so one last thing here is that here is what we see concerning the earth in pre-flood time. The reason why that's so important, because in pre-flood time, you had a crystalline vapor canopy, okay, that covered the entire earth. It was a thin sheet of ice, and it was crystalline in nature, transparent, fiber optic, ferromagnetic, superconductive canopy. So when the light was created on the fourth day, the light would shine through the canopy and give off a pinkish hue. And that pinkish hue was conducive for plant growth. Everything grew large. And so it was about 11 miles above the surface of the earth. And then, of course, at 30 pounds per square inch of oxygen content, which we only have 14.6 today, the thermonuclear core heated up in the ambient and gave the greenhouse effect approximately 72 to 78 degrees. And that's what we call the greenhouse effect, that Pangea. I'd like to show you that, because that's how the world was for the first 1,656 years, from the time Adam was created up until the Noahic flood. So during the Noahic flood, the canopy condensed into water, into rain, and that's where we got the 40 days and 40 nights of rain. And then the fountains of the great deep was broken up, like there was talking in the class last night about the Noahic flood. So that's just to give you a little background information. So we're going to switch, and I'm going to go over to another program and to share with you as far as in your homeschooling. I know you guys get excellent information. And what's so sad about where I come from is that they're trying to make a legislation to not let the parents come to the school to find out what is being taught to your children. That's terrible. So we as believers, we have to really make a stand because what they're teaching our kids in the public schools is not good. So what is happening in our city back there and all over is the like radio station people that have resources, they are sponsoring kids to go in private schools and paying their tuition because of what's happening to them in the public schools. Wow. Okay. Here, unsupported claims by evolutionists. So here we have what we refer to as Australopithecus afarensis. These are falsified figures that evolution has made. And then these are real human footprints, Latola footprints in East Africa. So what happened is that in the textbooks, newspapers, magazines, they make these falsified photos to be kind of like a transition between monkeys and modern man. And so when they find different fragments of bone, and we're going to talk about that, they will put something together, and sometimes they falsify these bones, and then, of course, make them to try to look like a transition of men. So what we do there in San Diego, California, that's about 120 miles from Los Angeles, they have a museum, a very famous museum. It's called the Museum of Man. They have thousands of students, thousands of people come through that museum. And what they share with them that they came from monkeys, apes, and baboons. So what you see, many facets of Lucy, they call it Lucy. All these falsified information. So they draw these figures, and they look at fragments of bone. They draw these figures and try to make you think that from the early time, from these particular point, and then you work your way all the way up to modern man. But we know that God created us in His image and in His likeness. So in our acronym, in our company, it's DIRT, D-R-R-T. So we discover, interpret, and report the truth. So we don't falsify any information. And so what you see here, this particular gentleman made this statement. It's just his statement. So he said that if we are descendants from apes, our remote ancestors ought to look their part. You may not be willing to admit that you resemble an ape, but as you trace back to the genealogical line, you will have to admit that somewhere in your family, in your family tree, there's squats and apes. That was his point of view. And the evolutionists, they make these statements, and so they're just a blanket statement. So we won't adhere to that. Go ahead. Go to the next one. So in the museum, when you go there, it has you see this term here? Australopithecus afarensis, or southern ape. These are pseudo-false scientific reconstruction of a non-ancestor of man. And so many facets of Lucy. And the reason why they named it Lucy is that in the 1960s, there was a singing group by the Beatles. And the Beatles, they made this famous song called Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. That was a very popular song. So when they discovered these particular fragments and bone and made this false information and put them in the magazine, they called it Many Facets of Lucy. So these are the National Geographic, Discovery, talking about newspaper articles about the beginning of man, how they would basically transition from, I think it'll go down a little bit more. That's it, okay. But anyway, that's another one coming up. So basically you have these, and they call it the ascendancy of man. And so when they see these in the magazines and newspapers, Then, of course, they share with the children. And these are what we refer to as metaphysical microevolutionary ascendancy of one imaginary ancestor of woman. Also called Miss Monkey, Mamie or Lucy. So they try to make it, basically start here and work its way all the way up to modern man. But that's false. False information that they're sharing with our children and that they've been sharing with us for 150 years or so. But if we came from monkeys, apes, and baboon, we wouldn't look this good. Okay, go to the next one. Okay, what happened is that in our group, when we excavate, find fragments of bone, fragments of different animals, or apes or monkeys or baboons or whatever, what we do, we can determine whether particular fragments of bone, whether they are man, whether they're ape, because we have very excellent scholars. And so when we put fragments of bone together, we can tell these are baboons, and then plus we know that because they don't have bridges on their nose, so they can't wear eyeglasses, and so we can tell basically the teeth structure. We can tell what kind of food they ate. We can tell the kind of like the age of them. And so when we make these replicas, you go in the museum and you find a discoloration, that means that this portion, the light color was added, whether it's plastic or resin. And we make those basically, put them in the museum. So when you go in the museum, even dinosaurs and all kind of animals that has just discolored, that portion was added. Okay, so but we know the difference between the different animals. Like Dr. Bregman talking about the dogs, wolves, La Brea tar pits there in California. They have just hundreds of dire wolves in this tar pit that they have uncovered over the years. And so what happened is during a period of time, in earlier time, in the tar pit, it would rain and water would cover it. So animals come in there to drink water and they get stuck in the tar. And so over the years, they found saber-tooth cats, hundreds of dire wolves, and other animals. And so, but that museum there is it's just excellent. But you have to go in there with a person, like myself and other creation scientists to explain to you the truth, because they're going to tell you that they evolved from some one cell amoeba somewhere. Okay. Okay. Now, let's do this for a moment. Sometimes that happens. Okay, go ahead. Next one. Okay, greatest archaeological discoveries. So, let's look at this for a moment. Okay, explaining this, basically, we talked earlier about the Noah's Ark. And then, of course, Ham, Shem, and Japheth, 8 people saved. Ham, Shem, and Japheth, their wife, Noah and his wife. So basically, we see that Japheth had 14 descendants. A lot of our great scientists came from Japheth. Okay, and then from Ham had 30 nations. The reason why the 30 nations, because everything that he dealt with as far as food, shelter, and clothing was concerned, God gave them the talent. God gave the talent for the sons of Japheth, for technology. And then through Shem, God basically, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, Jesus came from the loins of Shem. And so what happened there, God knew that we needed technology. He knew that we needed the basic necessities of life after the flood. Also, he knew that we needed a Savior, and that's through Jesus Christ. That's why God chose that land bridge of Israel, because he had Europe on the left, Asia on the right, Africa in the south, and all the trading and all the knowledge and insight had to come through this land bridge. That's why God chose this land bridge. So the different empires that conquered, like the Babylonians, the Medo-Persians, the Grecian Empire, the Roman Empire, they had one complaint about this particular area and about the children of Israel, that they only worship one God. Okay, so we see that. Also, when we talk about the creation week, in the creation week, you had 6 cycles a day. We had a question last night concerning the time. But it was a quantometric equilibrium. Basically, is 12 hours during the day, 12 hours a night. And these are cyclical days or solar days, not thousands of years. Okay, go ahead. So in the beginning, the Bible said God created the heavens and earth. So in the beginning, we have time. We all are governed by time. He's in the beginning, God. God is the force. He's the creator. He's the sustainer. And then he created, that's energy. And then, of course, the heaven, that's space, the earth, mass. And all the information that we have in our life come from these areas. You cannot go outside of these parameters. So we had various scholars that was good in physics, mathematics. They tried to calculate how they could operate outside of those parameters. And every time they would try to think that they were successful, they always end up back to God, because he's the one that created. He's the one that sustained. And so that's what the 5 parameters that you can't get out of. Okay, now, it said in the beginning, okay, we read the scripture there. And then, of course, verse 2, it says, and the earth was without form and void, and dark was up on the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved up on the face of the waters. And God said, let there be light. So this wasn't light from the sun. This is a light energy that when we at UCLA, we made an experiment that when sound at a certain pitch will penetrate water, it gave off a electromagnetic field on the molecules there, and it energized. So all the rest of creation has to come from that matrix of water. So in day 2, we're going to look at the canopy. So go to the next slide. Okay. Then the 6 factors identifying or describing our universe. Okay, and then what we do that explains that aspect. But light that energized that matrix of water. And day number 2, the canopy, that came forth, the crystalline canopy that we talked about earlier. Okay, so we'll skip over. Okay, and this is just a little aspect of to show you how modern physics has discovered that vibratory energy, sound, acoustics, is the basis for all subatomic particles, and consequently, all physical matter. So let's look at this. And we want to demonstrate this just for the sake of time. So we go ahead and skip. Yeah, we go ahead and skip. And yeah, go ahead. All right, so day 1, we'll take a look at that electromagnetic field. When it says atomic levels of hydrogen and oxygen were established. So the Spirit of God aligned the molecules forming Earth, electromagnetic field, light was created. So that's what you have here, the electromagnetic field, which is losing energy every 1,400 years. And so that's what's conducive for everything else to grow, and to develop that God has created. So we talked about the crystalline vapor canopy on day number 2. So let's go to day number 3. In day number 3, the dry land appeared. And the dry land was a solid granite crust. So the dry land appeared in this crust, and it was energized because you had no catastrophic events that taken place. You had no rain, no wind in pre-flood time. And so it gave off a light radiation hue, which energized that water. So everything grew large. Okay, go ahead. So when we look at day, that was day number 3. So day number 4, we see the stellar heavens were created, the sun, the moon, the stars were created on that day. And of course, we see the earth as all the other planets that we find out help stabilize the earth. So it's like a Goldilocks, not too hot, not too cold, watery planet, just right for us. Okay, so what you see also with that, as the different aspects of the solar system, designed just like the moon, and so it takes the moon in its phases. If agriculture people use the phases of the moon, and so what we see here is a northite, but the moon on the new moon, they take 29 days, 12 hours, 44 minutes, 2.98 seconds for a new moon. And then on the 5th phase, we have the full moon. So this is very important, a northite. So this northite covered the moon, pre-flood time, 30 miles deep. And what happened is that, you remember Neil Armstrong when he walked on the moon? When we got ready to get back on the module, he took 9 scoops of moon dust, and he brought it back to Earth. Later, they examined that moon dust, and they found this product here, a northite. It's a crystal. Because when the Bible says the greater light to rule the day, the lesser light to move the night, then the rule the night. So what happened is that the wolves and dogs, we talked about when Dr. Bergen talked about the hearing mechanism and the smelling mechanism. The reason why they howl at the moon is because the moon gives off a vibratory sound of 28 hertz per second. And so dogs can hear it, and it distorts their ears, it distorts their hearing, it irritates their hearing. So that's why they howl at the moon. So this northite is very important. And of course, it covered the entire moon, basically. And then it was 7 times brighter during that time than it will be today in the full moon. Go ahead. Okay, day number 5, we see, fish and fire were created. And of course, 30,000 kinds of fish. And then 9,000 kinds of birds. You had basically 3,000. It's going to give you a detail about the animal that was created during that time. And so, but this is a part of our education to know our environment, to know how God created. And so in your school and your homeschool, all these details basically are very important to us, because when people ask us concerning certain things, and then as far as apologetics is concerned, we should be able to answer those questions. So you're talking about 9,000 birds, kinds of birds that God created. And so they are unique. Some of the birds are designed that they can actually fly, then go down into the water, ocean, pick up fish, come back up and fly away. Very, very unique. Okay, now let's look at some of the things, and then we have time to ask some questions. So, and God said, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that has life, and the fowl that they may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven. Okay, now we get to the animals. Okay, and then on the 6th day, we had basically man was and dinosaur were created on day number 6. So we're going to get to some animals, and then we're going to look at the skulls here. Okay. All right. So we ask questions, and okay, here we go. In our excavation in Glen Rose, the largest human footprint that we have excavated is 25.5 inches. And that person had to be basically like 14 feet tall. And the other prints that we're going to show you, and then the average footprint that we find, basically of regular sized people, we find, it is 17 or 18 inches. This one here, that's a female footprint. I'll come down and show you more details on it in a moment. And so then we would cut out the track, make replicas of them and put in the museum. So I want to share with you that when I put my foot in this particular track to show you basically how it was, I want to apologize for my foot because I forgot to put lotion on my foot that day. And so to share with you that female footprints, that's a female footprint here. And female footprints are tapered. The heels are tapered. That's how we can know female from male. So male footprint basically kind of like blunt, that nature, And so we have that. So when I first came to California, I'm originally from Texas. So when I moved to California, I never got a pedicure. So when I moved to California, I got a pedicure. So when I went in the shop, I took off my shoes and socks. And when they saw my feet, they said, "Oh my God," and because I had bad feet. So my wife make me get a pedicure every 2 weeks now. Every 2 weeks I had to go to get a pedicure. Go ahead. So next we'll see, concerning trace fossils. And trace fossils are fossils that are tracks that are left behind, things that are like make some type of tail drag that are left behind, and activities that's left behind. So what we see, like these birds or these trace fossils provide paleontologists with information about what the animal was doing at the time they made the trace. This is called animal behavior. So when we see these particular things, tracks, these are called trace fossils. And then the dinosaur tracks, basically too, are trace fossils. We don't see the actual dinosaur, but we see the evidence of them existing, walking in the limestone. So now this is I think the second most famous photo in the world. And you're talking about the Mona Lisa and all those paintings, but this shook up the world because we've been taught that man and dinosaur did not coexist. But here you find human footprints right here. Human footprints, and these are dinosaur tracks crossing each other in the same Cretaceous limestone. So people couldn't believe it. So the NASA and all these great entities, they wanted to come and see and try to witness this because they didn't believe it. And so we've been taught that dinosaurs and man did not coexist. So here we find this evidence. We uncovered the longest trackway in North America, 157 continuous tracks of dinosaurs and over 90 human footprints. That's why I'd like for you to come to Glen Rose with us so you can excavate dinosaur tracks. Okay, keep going. Okay, then we'll do a couple more, and then we'll talk about the skulls down there. Okay, what I want to do is the giant animals for a minute. We'll click down to the giant animals. Okay, while you do, I'm gonna go ahead down here, and while you getting that together. Okay. All right, I'm coming down here and explain this for a moment while he's doing the giants. While he's doing that. So let me tell you about these particular, okay. So here's something that you can understand. This is a female footprint. So people accuse us of carving these tracks. But what happened is that these particular, please hold that up. So what happened is that you just face it. We have what we call push-up. People actually stepped in the mud. So if you don't find push-up, people can be accused of carving, but this is not carved. Somebody actually stepped in, and made this print. So we took a saw, we cut across to show you the aspects of the phalanges and they penetrate. So we got the phalanges, and then of course the tapered heel. You got the instep. So that's an actual print that a lady made. She was about 8 to 9 feet tall. Okay, I'll put that down. And then we grab this. Okay, so one of you kids come up. Yeah, come up. I want you to show the people this. Turn around, show them the hole right there. Can everybody see it? Let it turn around so everybody can see it. Okay, this particular skull here, basically, you see the hole here is a ancient surgery. So 2,000 years ago, and over 3,000 years ago, people had technology to do brain surgery. So they could locate a tumor. And the reason why, without any x-ray, without any CT scans, without any modern technology, they knew the way the person acted or their particular character. They knew where the tumors, what area was infected. So what they would do, they would take obsidian stone, sharp volcanic stone. Some surgeons still use today. And then they would bore holes or they would scrape. And then when they bored a hole, they would take the cap, extract the tumor, put medication in there, put it back. And then the brain surgeries that we see in our research, they had like a 68% success rate 2,000 years ago by brain surgery. Okay, thank you. All right, so I do have some things concerning that. Okay, someone else come for this girl. Okay, come. Hold this and show everyone. Just hold it. Yeah, with both hands, and move your finger here. So what we have here, this particular person here, approximately 32 years old, has lesions on the forehead, deterioration in the skull from a blood disease, and then there was a severe case of syphilis, a sexually transmitted disease. So we have forensic archaeologists that work along with us. When we discover things, skulls, they can determine what kind of disease. They can determine by the teeth, the diet. They can determine, can determine the age. We find elongated skulls. And so those particular skulls was conducive for when kids are small, their skull is soft, so they can shape them. Sometimes they shape them because of the tribal identity or their particular group of people. Okay, thank you. And you can come up and test these later. Okay. So this is a Neanderthal skull from the Neanderthal Valley in Germany. So a lot of times when we find different fragments of skull, we can, with our computer technology, we can know basically, how to, put them back together. If we find basic fragments, worked in Sharktooth Hill in Bakersfield, California for 19 seasons. We found over 350 different species of shark. And so we're working on a whale vertebrae, huge whale vertebrae. And then just found fractions of it. But at that particular time, the area that we were working in, this was probably the largest whale, a vertebrate whale that was ever discovered. But a company came in, bulldozed it, and built apartment buildings on top of it. But anyway, this Neanderthal skull basically is very conducive because we were thinking that the Neanderthal discovered what we call super glue. Super glue comes from a bark tree. And what the Neanderthal would do, they would take the bark of this birch bark tree and then take the bark and they boiled it to 750 degrees. And that made the glue. So the reason why they had the glue is because they were hunters and gatherers. And when they speared animals, to keep the arrowhead from breaking, they made the super glue in order to keep it from breaking. So we were thinking that they are the one that invented the super glue. But we have a piece of wood from Noah's Ark that we got back in the 1960s. So we examined that wood and found out that the birch bark resin was in the wood. So Noah in the ark, when the Bible says about the pitch, and pitches wasn't tar, but it was birch bark resin, because birch bark resin is a lightning conductor. And Psalm 77 talks about how lightning went throughout the universe. And so the safest place was on the ark. So when lightning would strike the ark, and then of course it would repel. And that was the safest place in there. So that's the technology that we know. And also the Neanderthals built, well, we said was the first movie. What happened is that they would take flat stone, flatten it out, and then put a hole in the center, and they would draw different animals on the block, and they would have a few of them. So they would take a string, a piece of a string, put it through the hole, and then they would turn it, and then you saw little animals going back and forth like a movie. That was 1900 years before Christ. Okay, so let's look at something here. We'll go ahead, and then you can come up, and then we have questions. Then you can come up. Okay, so in our research, basically, we found the different types of dinosaurs, about over 300 different species of dinosaurs. And so in the museum, they make the replicas. What we do, we talk about the teeth, and then of course then we name those animals. So I want you to. This is Albertosaurus. I want you kids to say this, Albertosaurus. I can't hear you. Yes, and then of course when we talk about dinosaurs, I mean dinosaur. They call it they call it terrible lizard. But when we look at the different things, look how beautiful the artist's rendition of these, because they are finding soft tissue for these particular animals. So let's name this one. What is this? Okay, what is it? Oviraptor. Say that with me. Oviraptor. Okay. So the dinosaur eggs are very small. I have a couple of them at home. And so large as these dinosaurs would get, some 110 feet long, weigh 80 tons. You're talking about, and then they only lay eggs small, like the largest one, basically like a little smaller than a football. Okay, so you see Oviraptor. Okay, let's look at this. Let's look at the name of this one, and then we'll just look at a couple of them. It's a bunch of them, but here's Tyrannosaurus Rex, T-Rex. Okay, let's say that again. Let me hear you. Okay, okay, say the whole word, Tyrannosaurus Rex. All right, okay. Yes, and if you notice, I got some T-Rex teeth at home, and the T-Rex teeth is somewhere upward like maybe 10, 11 inches. And then what happened is that the teeth are curved that comes towards their throat, and they are serrated, which means that it's like a saw. You can take the edge of it, you can saw wood. So why is that? Because in pre-flood time they were herbivores, lush vegetation that they ate, and so but we find dinosaurs in post-flood, and so it became carnivores. So they eat meat. So what we have here, Triceratops. Say it again. Triceratops. Okay. What I want to share with this, and then I'll just look at one more about Triceratops in Colorado. There's a lot of them in Colorado. So when you find these particular species of dinosaur, you might find a group of T-Rex together, a group of Triceratops together, you know, a group of Cephalosaurus, you know, the heart, the skull that's real hard when that's cephalus. And then, of course, when you find them together, it's called a biome, B-I-O-M-E, now, which means that they stuck with each other. They mate with each other, and then, of course, they eat with each other. The environment was conducive for them. So when we find fossils all over the world, Texas, Colorado, all through, you find different species of the same kind together. And because in pre-flood time and during the flood, when animals are threatened, they tend to come together. And so that's what we find. Okay, let's look at this one right here, and then we will, what is this? Okay, this is the Styracosaurus. See all the, you know, the horns there? And then, of course, these are the type of species that we find basically in the western part of the United States. Well, you find them all over the world, but a great concentration of them is Utah, Colorado, Arizona, New Mexico, Idaho, and up through the western part of the United States, and then on the West Coast, California. All right, now, okay, I see my time is limited, so any question? Anybody have any questions? Any questions about the dinosaur tracks, Glen Rose? Yes. Why do they have dinosaur tracks? Well, it's called trace fossils that show you that they existed. Well, just like if it rained and you're in your yard, you know, in your backyard, you go out there and in the rain and you make tracks, you know, that's called this trace. It shows that we don't see you, but we see the evidence that you've been there. Okay, that's what we see. Okay, anybody else? Yes. Okay, that's a good question. Everybody. All right, very important. Well, during the Noetic flood, you basically had the water, well, the fountain of the Great Deep had broken up, right? So you had 10,000 volcanoes that erupted. So you had volcanic ash, you had earthquake, you had what do you call it? Hydrostatic compaction, earthquake, and the limestone was hot, you know, from the volcanoes. And from the ocean, it's calcium carbonate in the ocean. That's why you get the white crustaceous limestone. Come from the Latin word creta, which is, we get the term chalk. So it was hot, you know, warm. So when dinosaurs and man trying to get to higher ground, walking through the mud, and then you had the high tides and low tides, water was coming in. So what happened is that, you know, they made the tracks, and then the water cooled the tracks. And then sometimes while it was warm, humans stepped in the track and cooled it. That's why we got the human footprints inside the dinosaur track. So that's how you get the tracks in there. So that area is just full loaded with dinosaur tracks. And then when the tide would roll in, dirt, you know, mud and stuff would come over it. And then in the next tide come in, you had another layer, and each layer was about 11 to 12 inches. And then when it hardened, we call that a hard pan. So when you break it, and underneath there's about 4 inches of clay, you excavate through the clay, and then the next layer you might find a print or a dinosaur track, and you got that all through that area. But you find them all over the world. Okay, that answer your question? Yeah, okay. All right, so I got a lot of things. So any other question? Any other question? Yes. I can't hear you. Stand up. Yeah, you know, you got from the moon, you have tides. And if you live close to the ocean like I do, California, you have tides roll in the morning, tides in the evening. You got high tides and low tides, and that bring the water in. That's the God's way of the ocean cleanses itself. Okay, so what happened during the Noatic flood, where you had these tides coming in, and then of course it went over the tracks and cooled it, and that's how they preserved. So I believe that God designed a system where they were preserved for us to see the evidence that of the Noatic flood and what happened at that event, and to show you that dinosaurs and man coexisted. All that evidence is there. Say it again. Yeah, one section covered that, but you have layers. There's about 17 major layers that went throughout not only throughout America, but throughout Europe. Okay, so if you ever seen a picture of the Grand Canyon, you see those layers, the Grand Canyon. So all those layers sometimes have tracks in those layers. As a matter of fact, the Grand Canyon has that's the top layer. It's called a Kaibab Plateau, and the second layer is called a Toro Weep, named after Native American tribes. And then you have the Conconino Sandstone, Red Wall Limestone. So on those layers of tracks all over, and so but they're not just at the Grand Canyon. That whole layer goes out through the western part of the United States, and you find tracks. As a matter of fact, you ever heard of a term called nanolords? Those are the fish that has a wide opening, and then it narrows down to the end. It's like a crab in a shell. Well, we have one layer that we know of limestone that goes 100 miles. And in that layer, that's nothing but nanolords, millions of them. So each layer might have certain groups of dinosaurs, certain groups of different species of animals all through those layers. In Bakersfield, California, where we work, it's all sharks. That's why they call it Shark Tooth Hill. 350 different species of shark in that limestone. And then also in India, you have a limestone of nothing but mammals. And then also in Colorado, the Morrison Formation, mostly crocs, triceratops, dinosaurs, and Stegosaurus. But we uncovered the largest Stegosaurus in North America, a 62-inch femur from that. So it took us many years to get it all out. So we finally got it out. But that's what you call biomes. Certain areas throughout the world, these layers of Noatic flood washed up. You have these, matter of fact, in England, right off the coast of England, there's an area there that has nothing but mammals. And then up in Greenland, that area there, they say it's about 50 million different woolly mammals buried in ice all through there. So that's it. Okay. Now, would you like to come up and handle these kids come up, take pictures? So I think my time is up. So we're going to, if there's no more questions, we'll go for it. Okay, you want to come up and take a look at these? Come on up. Yeah, just grab them. And you want to take pictures? We'll take pictures. Yeah, you can pick it up. Don't be afraid. You can pick them up. Let me get my camera. Okay, you hold them up. I'll take a picture of it. Okay. Oh, let me let's hit that.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, guys, let's turn around. Let's take a picture together. Oh, okay. That's all right.
hit the wrong button here.
There you just hit that. Yeah. Oh, okay. Come up front. Yeah, come up front so you can show. Yes, hold these in front of you. There you go. Hold it in front. Come on, stand right here. Okay, come up. Okay, anybody else got a camera and take pictures? Oh yeah, come up and take photos. Come on. Okay, he's gonna take a couple more. Mhm. Okay, you got it. Hold it up. Okay, look at the camera. Okay.
My face is gonna get stuck just
Mhm.
right there. You
Mhm. Okay. Everybody got enough photos? Anybody else need more photos? Okay. All right. Yeah, go ahead. Take a picture of it. Right. Okay. Well, if there's not anything else you need, any questions, we will uh, we will close for today. And my time is up, and I thank you for yours. Amen. All right then. Good.